So how long before these parties meet up? Hey everyone, welcome to Prince the Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with episode 15 of Delicious in Dungeon. And I am wondering that though, because last episode we got introduced to these other parties. We've been seeing one of them throughout the series so far. They just keep dying. And then the other party we're kind of just being introduced to. Although the leader of this new one is a former member of, I guess, Laios and Fallon's party. We're kind of just making it official. The Toden party. So, yeah, it's interesting that last episode focused on not our main characters. We're kind of expanding things a little more. And I mentioned last time how this other party keeps dying and everything, how every time we see them, they've died from something else. And it was kind of pointed out to me that it's like, okay, but with the entire resurrection thing, this dungeon, kind of everyone's been dying and everything. It's like, okay, yes, sure. But this party dies a lot more often, and it's made a focus of. It's like actively made a focus to show that they are dying more often than normal. So that was my big thing of note. How in the last episode they're shown to be fairly confident or competent enough, but despite that, they are constantly dying. Again, it's kind of become a recurring gag. On top of that, there was a little like kind of confusion in something, because I brought up like in the comments when we were talking about it. I think it was with Venom. Um, I'm not gonna go back and look right now, but it was brought up about like the rest of our main party dying and stuff, and I had thought that Marcel had not died before. And to be fair, there's a reason why I thought this. Now this is something I did find out. I don't think I mentioned it in the comments, but I did find this out. So we knew about some of the others' deaths. We knew about like the Toden siblings, how they died with the living armor, and Chilchuck with the mimic. I don't know why my mind was blanking there, but with the mimic, we learned about like their first deaths and everything. We don't know about Senshi's as of yet, to my knowledge. I don't think it's ever really been brought up. Um, but my thought was that okay, Marcel hadn't died because in the first episode, she said it would be regrettable to die, to have her first death be from a slime, or whatever the exact words she used were. And that is where the problem comes in. I went back and watched that again, and it's like, yeah, that's what it's saying. That she had not died before. And then I went and watched it in the original Japanese, in the sub. And the confusion made sense. The way it was worded in the dub made it sound like Marcel had not died before, and that she would be like upset if her first death was to a slime. But the way it's worded in the sub version makes it clear that what was meant is that her first death was to a slime, and she was kind of remembering that by the fact that now a slime was suffocating her again. This is something we haven't like seen through a flashback or something. It's something we basically only know from that single line of dialogue. And the dubs like phrasing on it, the way it's phrased in the dub and everything, makes it sound like she's saying that, like, this would be her first death in those events in episode 1. It was entirely the wording of it. It was entirely the phrasing. So I don't consider myself like having misunderstood anything. I'm actually going to kind of blame the translation there. The dubbing. They used poor phrasing to explain that. So yeah, apparently Marcille had died from a slime before, and the slime suffocating her in episode 1 was reminding her of that. It was just poor wording, and it was much more clear in the original Japanese with the subtitles. As much as I vastly prefer the voices in the dub, and just the performances in general, which seems to be a pretty common thought from what I've seen. That line, at least, was... It could have been translated or written better for the dub. That's my only issue there. I'm just gonna leave it with that, though. But yeah, that was a little question that kind of was brought up last time, so. But even so, even with all the members of our main party having died before and stuff, again, the point I was trying to make last time is that this other party is, again, actively shown by the series to be constantly dying. Like, more so than average. It makes a point of showing us that. So it was just weird to me that they're suddenly shown as being, like, pretty competent in most things. I mean, they were almost killed in the end and had to be saved by Shuro's party, but still. They were handling themselves fairly well the majority of the time last episode. So, I don't know. But yeah, last episode, as I mentioned, did showcase that it's not going to just be the same thing over again. That with adding in new parties and new ideas and stuff, plus the fact that our heroes apparently have gotten lost in trying to leave the dungeon, we're not just going to be repeating the same things from the first half of the season over again in our continued search for Fallon once more. I still think that having this second arc being just another search to find Fallon, even if the circumstances are different, I think that it's still pretty repetitive. And I do still have issue with that. But I think I'm going to be mostly okay with it because of the context. Because things are changed enough to where it's going to allow it to still feel fresh. It's still annoying that they have to save Fallon again, but it could be worse. That being said, I think we should just get into this episode and see what we continue to get. Will our parties come face to face? The leader of this other party, I can't remember his name right now, but he was like mentioning to Shuro about helping them find Fallon. So I'm wondering if they'll connect with the Toden party at all. Although the leader of this other one doesn't seem to like the Toden siblings too well. We will see how it goes. That being said, let's just check it out and see what we have in store for this episode of Delicious in Dungeon. Cutting in here real quick to remind you of all the awesome content we have on the channel. Between Monday and Friday, we have a plethora of awesome series reactions with 2 on Wednesday. We also have movie reactions every Saturday and Sunday. I do pre-record them during the week, but I upload them on the weekend. And don't forget all the gaming content we have both on this channel and the Secondary Princess of Gaming channel. We have Horizon Forbidden West every other day and Baldur's Gate 3 every single day on this channel, while we also have Nier Automata every Saturday on the other. And don't forget to click the link down in the description below to get to today's reaction. I redirected just due to copyright reasons. And finally, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video if you want to see more awesome content such as this. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's get on to the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. There was quite a bit that happened in this episode. So we're focusing on our main party again, and kind of like dealing with the fact that the dungeon is kind of like shifting and rearranging. The Mad Mage seems to be making it harder for them to escape and everything, which it makes sense. It tracks why he would be doing that. But they had to deal with quite a bit in regards to this. You have the dryad flowers, you have the cockatrice, you have Marcel turning to stone and having to be brought back from that, Laios having the sickness and all. It's like so much happened in this. Oh, Senshi and Chilchuk and Laios, actually all three of them, got pretty messed up with the hay fever too from the dryad flower. It's like so much happened in this. I guess Marcel just doesn't have eyelashes on one eye now, unless they grow back. I actually have no idea how that would work, but that's a thing, I guess. And it's actually noticeable. You can actually tell, so that's fun. On top of that, you have Laios learning magic. Marcel did did like the making herself look big thing like Laios did in episode 2, I believe that was. It's just so much, so goddamn much. You have Senshi teaching Chilchuk about the birds and the bees because what the fuck? What was that? Oh my goodness. Look, I know these different races have like different age ranges and stuff, but it's like Chilchuk has told them already he is not a kid, he is an adult. And it's just like, oh my god. And then the pose Marcel is in while she was a statue, and then being used by Senshi to press the cockatrice meat and everything. It's just like, what the fuck is happening? What is this? It's so much. So much happened. And weirdly at the same time, it doesn't feel like it was like poorly paced in that regard. Because although there was so much happening, so many things that occurred, it all kind of blended into each other. Nothing felt like it overstayed its welcome. Nothing felt like it went by too quick. And we even got the narrator coming back in with saying "delicious in dungeon" again, like giving us the the title of the series at the end after everything had happened. We got some more interesting food with the pumpkin face things. It's like, what the fuck? I hate that so much. It's so fucking weird. But the food sounded good. I mean, the food almost always sounds good. But it's like, geez. Also, like, the entire time, like, they had that scene where, Marcel's teaching Laios healing magic, and he's, like, trying to figure out how to touch her ear without it being awkward. It's like, the entire time I'm watching, I'm thinking, like, yeah, how sensitive are elf ears? Because I think I've heard that in like various media and stuff, like elf ears are particularly sensitive and everything. Um, it's just I can't give like a specific example off the top of my head, but I believe I've heard that in various like media that elf ears are particularly a sensitive part of their body, just naturally and everything. So though when he grabbed it, like just grabbed her ear like that, and everything, like I tensed up. I don't know if it was visible on screen, probably not, but I like my body tensed up at that because it didn't scare me per se. It was more like concerning. It's like I feel like I would have had the same reaction if he like grabbed her arm with that much like force and suddenness. It was just like I wasn't expecting him to do that. Um, Mind you, when he explained why he did it, it's like I understand, but dude. Also, this has kind of been like a question. I think I might have even been asked this early on in the series about whether or not like I ship Marcel and him, and I've already made clear that I kind of ship her with Fallon more so, especially after the episode of them in the bath together, um, and not just for the reasons you think, because there's actual chemistry there, and she very clearly has deep feelings for Fallon, one way or the other. But this episode actually, I feel, made it clear why I don't ship them. I think Marcel's reaction to him and everything, and her like kind of not really telling him off, but explained to him he doesn't need to be embarrassed about it, and even her reaction to him like saying like, "Oh, it's because you were so good at teaching me." Like she didn't blush or anything. She wasn't super flustered. She just said thanks. And it's like at no point did I feel any romantic like interest between either side of it. Like Laios was a little awkward about things, but that's just fucking Laios. Like of course he's going to be awkward about touching her ears like that. That just makes sense. Like that's not necessarily a romantic thing or anything. Um I didn't get any romantic chemistry from them in that interaction at all. In fact, it kind of it not only felt more like a friendship, but it actively felt like they just had no interest in each other. Like they never even would think about something like that. And it's like it's interesting to me because I know there's people who ship them, and I'm thinking like, especially after seeing this scene, it's like, but why? Is it just because they're the main male and female character? Because I can't think of another reason. There's actively no romantic chemistry there. It seems to me making a point of there being no romantic chemistry there. And yet there's a shit ton between her and Fallon. But the thing is, I don't sense really romantic chemistry with Laios at all. In fact, I would be completely fine with the headcanon of him being asexual. Maybe even aromantic as well. I don't see him really that interested in that kind of stuff. I just don't. Which is really interesting. Like almost weirdly interesting. Because it's not like with like Luffy from One Piece, who pretty much everyone agrees is ace as well. Um Luffy feels ace because like he clearly does not give a shit about romance or sex or anything like that. Ace Arrow, I guess, specifically again. Um, it just never crosses his mind, and it just seems like something that he just doesn't even think about. Because he's always thinking about, you know, meat or freedom or helping people, stuff like that. But he doesn't, he has shown literally zero interest ever in romance or sex or anything. I think there's maybe been like maybe 2 points where it kind of shows him like flustered over something like that, and people have pointed out that like both times it's been specifically when he's goofing off with like the likes of Usopp and whatnot, who is, let's be fair, a little bit of a bad influence. But Luffy goofs off with Usopp because they're like best friends, and I think he tries to emulate Usopp in some ways, weirdly enough. So it's like there's points where like when they meet Bon Clay and he turns into Nami and shows that even the body changes too when flashing them Nami's tits. It's like, I don't think Luffy actually cared there. I think he was just trying to be like Usopp and just trying to be friends with Usopp. I mean, he was probably surprised, but I wouldn't say he was like actually interested. And the happiness punch in Alabasta, I believe, is kind of the same deal there. Both times, it's like he's goofing around with Usopp and stuff, and with others around him too. Chopper's there and whatnot. I don't think he actually cares, though. I genuinely don't. Because at no other points does he ever show even the slightest bit of interest in that kind of stuff. I mean, hell, he sees Boa Hancock butt-ass naked and just does not give a shit. Like, Laios feels very similar, but I feel like he's just... he's not like just almost brain dead kind of Ace like Luffy is, where again Luffy is just like, he just doesn't think about stuff like that. I think Laios just doesn't feel that attraction. It's like I could see him having thought about stuff like that, but just has never actually felt that kind of attraction to anyone. That's kind of how I view it, at least. Like, I absolutely believe that Laios has thought about stuff like marriage and romantic relationships, even possibly sex, but just has never actually felt the attraction. Also, just as fairness towards everyone else. Just to bring it up, with Marcel and Fallon, I see Marcel as gay. Like, super gay, by the way. I do not think she... And it's not just because she hasn't shown any, like, romantic chemistry towards anyone else. I don't know, she just gives those vibes to me. A lot of times when I, like, headcanon a character in terms of sexuality, it's vibes. It's the same thing with Chilchuck. He's also gay. I also headcanon him as gay. I don't know why. I can't tell you like any like noteworthy reason. I just get those vibes from him. Senshi is straight. Senshi is absolutely just straight, but he's an ally. Fallon herself, I would say, is probably bi. I could see that. And like I already said, I can kind of see Laios as Ace. Ace Arrow. At least Ace. Maybe not Arrow, but at least Ace. But yeah, I'm really curious to see if anything does come up with that kind of stuff. I almost feel like this series could go there, but I also feel like the series might never go there. And it's one of those shows where it's like I'm just not sure if they are ever going to go there with any of them. Oh my. Fucking excuse me. Um because it's like One Piece, just continuing to talk with that as an example. Um, One Piece will never go there. I think Oda's pretty explicitly said that he's not interested in like the romance aspect for the Straw Hat crew and all. So I don't think like we're gonna end with like Nami getting together with Luffy or any stupid shit like that. Also, Nami is totally gay, by the way. So definitely wouldn't happen. But you get the gist. It's like I don't think we'll ever see anything like that in One Piece. But with this series, maybe? I don't know. Um Going back to other stuff with this episode though, real quick. It is interesting that the cockatrice curse, I guess, in this is a temporary thing. And that with tall men, apparently it takes between 6 months and 10 years, which is an insane, like, difference of time. 6 months is a lot still, but, like, comparative to 10 years, it's like, Jesus. Like, how do you go from that to that? Why is that range so huge? Um, but elves have a resistance to magic, so it would probably take sooner on average. But if the range is that huge with tall men, the range could still be like anywhere from like maybe a month to 5 years. It's like that's still an insane range. So it's like, I guess it's better in some ways. But it is interesting that it's temporary. And it having different ways to actually fix it with various plants or with spells like that makes sense. I could imagine there would be spells that would be able to unpetrify someone or even plant remedies like that works, that makes sense. But usually I don't think it's usually just a timing based thing. I think that's a fairly new idea for cockatrice um, healing, I guess you could say. I don't think it's usually like timing based like that. So that's very interesting. Um, the dryad flowers were interesting as well. Just the way they're kind of like sitting there in that like grove area at first, and they're just like almost kind of making out and all to lure people to look at them. And then Senshi covers Chilchuck's eyes. It's like, don't look. And then you see it flash back to them, and they're like staring with these horrifying expressions. It's like, Jesus, fuck, those expressions are kind of scary. But also, it reminded me of Hell's Paradise. Like, please tell me I'm not the only one that thought of that. Um, Remember with the two in Hell's Paradise who were in their feminine forms? I can't remember what they were called at the moment, but they were in their feminine forms and they were making out and everything when they were come upon by, I believe it was the brothers, right? And like when they noticed the brothers were there, they just turned and glared at them with those same kind of expressions. It's like I was not expecting to be reminded of Hell's Paradise today. Also, flowers are also very, relevant in in that comparison too. But yeah, like I said, I was not expecting to be reminded of Hell's Paradise today of all things, but here we are, I guess. Um, it very much reminded me of that. Like it was a very strong comparison that went through my head. Which is not a bad thing by any means. I loved Hell's Paradise. Fantastic show, and I can't wait for season 2. Um, but yeah, it's like I just was not expecting that. So that's pretty interesting. And yeah, I thought this episode was pretty fun. Now, this episode, I will say, while the last episode assuaged some of my fears about this second half of the season kind of going and repeating things of the first half, this episode kind of literally repeated things from the first half. Like, it made a point of it, too. Like, it specifically called out that a lot of this was reminiscent of things from the first few episodes of the series. It was like specifically calling that out. And I'm kind of like, oh, you bitches absolutely knew what you were doing. I don't know who the original mangaka of this is, but this bitch absolutely knew what they were doing with that. Like, that was intentional. With them having to rescue Fallon again and everything, the author clearly knew that people would draw the comparison and maybe be worried that it would just be repetitious. So they made this like portion of the story to very clearly state, I know that this is going to be similar in concept, but just hear me out. Just hear me out. Just stick with me and we'll see where it goes. And I kind of respect the shit out of that. That very clearly the author not only knew that people were going to think this, but made an episode almost kind of mocking that idea, almost kind of like poking fun at the idea that this would be reminiscent of the first episodes of the series and everything, by making it purposefully reminiscent of that. Like, even bringing back the narrator, even that part, it's like the cockatrice being representative of the basilisk and everything. It's like there's so many similarities there, and that is absolutely intentional. And I think that's kind of fucking funny. I think it's kind of amazing that the author went out of their way to do that. To kind of poke fun at the idea that it might seem a little repetitious at first. That's insanely clever. Almost infuriatingly clever. It's like, bitch, who said you could do that? Who said you could be that smart? I mean, it's definitely a very new way to impress me with this series. I wasn't expecting it. You could definitely say that. But yeah, this episode was good. That's kind of what I'm getting at with all of this. This episode was very enjoyable. It had a lot of good stuff to it. The very concept of it and the poking fun at the repetition possibility is great. Not to mention just the stuff that happened was pretty fun. It was pretty enjoyable. So yeah, I thought this was another good episode in ways I wasn't even expecting. And it gave me a chance to headcanon sexualities for the characters, which I'm usually pretty for. um, and that in itself gave me a reason to say the words Chilchuck is gay. So, with that being said, tell me your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.